All right, so here's my trade review. Market just closed. Uh, let's go over. So I traded three tickers: SPY, Qs, and then Tesla. What I liked about Qs was that we obviously turned around from that low a few days ago, gapped up, strong move up, and then yesterday more of an inside day. And I had previously really liked 400, that zone. And so if there was a way to play it, I would definitely play it again. And it just so happened that we came up to 400 again today. So I guess, we were strong again, but we're in this old range and couldn't get above 400 yesterday. And then today it comes up, tests it. I felt like that was a good short, especially because if we don't break out again here right now, we should be doing some rangy compression days. But we know that when there's a good range, if you hit the edge of it, whether you do just a range resistance where you just hit 400 clean, you could get a nice short. And when you actually hit the level, it makes an even better short where you have a better chance of it going down to the bottom of the range. So hitting that gave you, if it hits this correctly, like we think it's going to, it'll definitely get you to the low of here with the potential to get to sort of the bottom of this bigger range, which is, somewhere right around where it's at right now. So, because I do think ATR is probably even further than it is right now. And the other way to hit this is if we would have gotten above it, right? And then it didn't continue much further, get back under 400, and then that's another really good range resistance. Sometimes even better, because then it's like you're getting new buyers involved, and then once it gets under, you have new bag holders. So I think that's why this fake breakout is so much more powerful and gives you an even bigger move. So we do something like that, then we get a move back down, not only to these previous targets, but maybe even further. Sometimes, this fake breakout is a clue that we might be going down further. So two different range resistances there, and I was pretty much looking for that. So there's other things I wanted to go over, so let me go over them here. So this 5 minute, or here, the 30 minute here, you can see this zone here. See the VPA, a strong VPA between here. Fake breaks out, gets back in the range, gets under, gaps up, strong day, gets it back in, hits 400 here, hits 400 here, and it's a short. And so then when I got short, I used yesterday's compression day, inside day, as a target, which was just 396, 50-ish. And then I told myself, if we get under that, then it should be a good short lower. And I was trying to look at where a good level was, but I guess the zone here, the bottom of the zone was good. And then you can even see that's where we broke out from when he got back in the range 2 days ago. So really, this is super clean. Yeah. So then we go to my trade here. I traded it pretty well. I have two different ATRs here, which I might start doing. This is the ATR right now, the 14-day ATR average, and it's $8.20, pretty big. And it's because of all of this. You have huge volume days, big moves. Selling days always create bigger ATRs. So I included that. So here's the recent 14-day ATR, but then I looked back and I said, well, what was the ATRs around these days? You know, when stock was just normal bull market, and that was about half as much, 4.5. So I sort of said, well, we're in sort of a compression mode here. We're not in breakout mode since we're staying under 400. So if anything, we're in a compression. So let's use the smaller ATR. And so I did use that. And that lined up pretty well with this daily level, which was yesterday's compression low. And so that was a big partial there. And then I put this note saying if stock gets under this, then it's definitely a short. So I'm trying to ask myself those questions when I'm in a trade. You know, where is it actually turning around, and then where is it actually not turning around, and it's more confirmation that it's going to continue to go down. I felt like this was the area because it's sort of like a 3-bar play. You had the move up, you had the compression, and then you have an added bonus of 400 being a really good level. You hit the 400, the 3-bar play now didn't continue, and so you have the opposite effect where you're now going down to yesterday's low, and if it breaks, then you have an even more momentum to the downside. So that's a really good like little reversal right there. So I got in small at 400 and then added in for the for a little bit of this trend line break, and it worked right away, but I still wasn't sure, so I did take some partials quick. And then it got to the high of yesterday, or no, it got to the, I can't remember what that was. The open, maybe? Got to the open. Yeah, so then I partialed. Then it pulled back, and then it got to VWAP, sort of the inflection here. And I was thinking, well, if it is going to trend down and continue in this 400, if this was the last time 400 was going to get hit, and this was actually going to do that bigger time frame bounce that I thought it was, I didn't think it could get much higher than above VWAP and up here. So, but it surely could have. It could have came up and double topped and then gone down, and that's just how we manage it. But honestly, I really liked a lot of my partials. The only one I didn't like was actually much later, and it was right here. I got out a half of what I had left, and the reason is because I just felt like I just thought that was the move down, and it wasn't going to come back above. If it did, I was going to get out of a lot, and I got out of a lot, and then almost immediately after it kept going down. So I don't know what that was, but other than that, I mean, I liked it. I added on the pullbacks. I really kept my average up high. I stayed really patient. I mean, you can see here that I didn't add for an hour and a half, and then I didn't add for another about hour and a half. So my ads were about an hour and a half apart. Shit, even right here they were too, or an hour apart here. And then, yeah, so really about an hour to 2 hours to my ads. And then I sort of scalped at the end here. I think my average was right here. Had small shares left. But then I liked this area. Volume really kept coming in. Felt like once this broke, it was going to go down. I really wanted 393. Once it got under to here, my main target was 393, but it wasn't. It was taking a while. So then I got in really as heavy as I could with keeping my stop just up here, and then was able to get all out right here. So I don't know. Overall, really good trade. Don't have these every day, so just got to make the most of them when we do. But I do think my higher time frame idea made total sense to me. It just so happened that it actually worked. I think if it had got above 400 and done some sketchy stuff, hopefully I would have just not fought it. I would say what was more likely to happen, or realistic, could have been, it came down, it wasn't ready to maybe trend just yet, and could have came up one more time and done like a double top like that. That could have happened, and I think that's why I sort of partialed pretty quick. It moved up really fast, and then it moved down really fast to the sort of opening range, and so that's why I partialed heavy, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with partialing heavy because this is a tough market out here, and you just got to pay yourself. And then I was able to hold longer once we kind of got further away. Whoops. Okay, so then we have, let's go to Tesla. Man, Tesla really sold off here. I really liked Tesla for, oh yeah, so this is why I liked Tesla. Well, here, let's do the higher time frame here. So, you know, it held this 950 and then did a nice, breaks the flag down and then back inside. So this $1,000 was pretty good support. You see these wicks, a lot of buyers under here. So even though it's selling off today, I would expect it not to stay too much longer in here, but we'll see because we are having lower highs here on the higher time frame. But anyway, so it gets back above. We have 2 days in here, 2 inside days essentially. Has a nice little wick, couple wicks here. So I've sort of used, you know, 2 days ago's low, 1,028 as support. And what I also did was I looked at, well, what did it do yesterday? And it actually had some little compression breakouts. So if you see here, a little bit of a consolidation, then goes above and consolidates again. And then here we had a change in volume here. So I felt like this 1,050, which, okay, 1,050, we know that's been a level for a while. This 1,050 was a good level. It was the high of the day. It broke it, new VPA. So I felt like, okay, I want to try and go long above 1,050 because I was more long bias on this higher time frame, right? Fake breakdown, gets above, couple inside days, it wicks up, it wants to stay, and then on top of that, I have a nice little breakout with new buyers here. You can see the change in buyers, really low volume, and then boom, big buyers. So I was like, okay, if it pulls back, and it did pull, shot down really pretty quickly down to 1,050, and I wanted to go long, thinking, oh man, I got a really good average in, and we're gonna probably go up from here. And you know, I wasn't gonna hold for a huge move, but I was gonna hold for some move inside this area. But it didn't work out, and so Tesla's so expensive that I have to trade small share size, so that was kind of a bummer. So I got in a couple shares, got out, tried it one more time, got out, and so I kind of use this as a zone. 1,050 was the zone. It was really holding it. You can see it bounced up, came down, was holding it, doji. It was really fighting it. And then eventually it gave way, and I let it go down a little bit more to confirm that it was selling off. And I got out. And then stopped going down, doji, pulls back a little bit, and then creates like a new 3-minute low. And I was like, oh man, this might be a short actually, because I really felt like 1,050 should have held. So then I shorted. And then here I'm like, oh man, I was correct. Okay, so 1,050 is resistance. But I was so small size, I think I only had one share here, and I wanted to get in another one. And that's the whole story with this, is that it was so expensive, and I just wanted to trade small share size, and I was literally messing with 1 or 2 shares the whole time. And because of that, I was wanting to get in to 2 or 3, average in, get into 2 or 3, and then partial out like I want to. But with only one share, it just made me think differently. So that was sort of the deal with Tesla for me. You know, it did this, I added in, I got out of just one of them. And then I added one back in, and then I partialed. I can't remember. Maybe I added 2 here. But anyways, I got a couple partials. I walked away here, put in some orders. They didn't get filled. This is sort of tricky. There's 2 daily levels here. I had an order above. I had an order right at 1,028. It didn't come that low. And then it came all the way back up. And here was the last one. The last one really should have worked for me, and I just kind of got unlucky here. Was right here. I had one share. I kept kind of scalping, and I had one more share left, and my stop was up here. I was like, you know what? Looks so weak. VWAP's going down. I'm just gonna leave my stuff up here, and I walked away. This was around here. I walked away, and I was just going to let it go if it could, and it came up, stopped me out, and then went off. And I actually did try to go long here. I saw some climactic volume here right at the daily level. Felt like, hey, if things turn around, it's going to turn around right here, but it didn't. So I got out, and it was just a continuation down. So that 1050 worked well, I believe. And then you could then use the last 2 days, that inside range here, and then use 1028, which was yeah, sort of this area as an area of, okay, it's either going to break down or not. And this is sort of like Hughes. I was trying to tell myself, well, where is it a short and where is it a long? And under these 2 daily levels, it's definitely a short, and it can be a short. It's not extended because look, we have 2 compression days. Just because it gets all the way down here doesn't mean it can't keep going. I mean, sure, there's some buying, but if it gets under here, it has plenty of ATR room to keep going. And that's exactly what it did. So, really, I should have said, well, this is the last point that I can go long. Otherwise, I should go short. But I had thought it all morning, and I was sort of worn out on that. So I'm okay with that. It is what it is. SPY, I also traded. This was a range resistance, sort of the same thing as Q's, only I wasn't quite as confident. SPY was not moving as well. Tesla was selling off. Q's were also selling off pretty quickly, whereas SPY wasn't. It was in a range. It sort of compressed and it broke down, but then it came back into VWAP. Just wasn't very clean. Definitely a rangy, choppy day. But that's okay because we know if we can get the edges of the ranges, you can get a nice move. So it got up here close to high of day and then failed. So you could have got a nice move there. Then up here, I started to short it. Sort of fought it because I guess I wanted it to work right away. And I got a really big wick down here. This wick happened in about 2 seconds. It was crazy. I got short, I got out of half, and then got half of it back in. And then on this candle, boom, within about 2 seconds, it shot down and filled me and probably a lot of other people at the 50-cent mark. So that was kind of cool. And I took out 2/3 of my position there because, this was so choppy. I just did not feel like this was going to trend until I was really confirmed by it. And so tried it a few more times. But here's where this was the best entry, or at least the best sort of setup. Okay, we had that big pull down, right? I would say we could count that as climactic volume because, sure, it's not up, but it's still climactic volume, and it's happening right around the edge of the range. So that's one clue. I'm sure it could have been hitting a bid, and then it would have taken off, but it didn't. It sort of sold down and came back up. It wasn't really coming up on that much volume. So you have that. That's one clue. And then the second clue is, comes up again. I'm pretty sure this was a new high of day and immediately fails. That's a good sign. And then every minute that we have a new low is even more confirmed. So I think climactic volume, high of day, edge of the range, gets a new high, wicks, comes right back down. You're golden here, I think. And let me see. So this level is just yesterday's open, maybe. I'm not sure what this level is. This 468.90, but yeah, I really like that because that is sort of that failed breakout, and then that's your short, and then from there, look, it trends. So I say this all the time. It's like when you have range days, they're hard to trade. But if you get a trend line break or you hit the edge of an important range and you actually hit it correctly, meaning you hit it with climactic volume, hit it with the failed breakout, you have a change in tape, change in character, then the stock is tradable and it's in play. It's most likely going to move. It's going to break out or it's going to move really strong in the opposite direction. And really, my main target was low of day, which was right here. I was looking at here. I was like, really, if this is truly a range bounce, and those clues confirm, I mean, I really should be holding the majority for here, but I'm not that good at holding that. So I did sort of scalp it. But it did work out because I got short there. It moved so quickly. That was another thing. So I was going to hold for here, or a lot of it. But look how fast it went down. I mean, within like 4 minutes, it went past VWAP all the way down here to the whole dollar. So I had to partial, and then it does a really nice pullback, pretty far up. I'm like, man, my stop break even was right here, and I told myself, well, this is probably just going to stop me out. I'm not going to partial here. So I was just like, I'm just going to add, and I just watched it and pushed my break even down a little bit, and that worked out. Came down pretty strong, partialed, came up again, and I said, man, I'm just going to stop me out again, so I'm just going to add in really tight, add some more. That worked out, and then it finally made a new low here underneath this low, sort of a compression or a trend line break, and so I just held. Wasn't sure what I was doing, but I felt like after this happened and after it really couldn't keep coming back up, I felt like this was another confirmation that it was going to the other end of the range. So you can see here I held for here and went down even further, pulled back, and this was the partial that I wasn't happy about. I partialed on Qs and SPY the same way. I sort of felt like, well, hit the low of the day, really rejected, volume started coming in. I thought that was it. So after it hit that and made a new 5-minute high, I got out of half of my position, and it came up a little bit more, hit 468, and then turned around super fast. And so I was kind of bummed about that because I probably could have made another 3, 4, 5 units holding on for the rest of the day, but it's okay. And you can see here that it did trend. It did hit low of day. It did hit I don't know. I just partialed there and then got all the way out right at the end here. So it was a good compression day, which hit the edge of a range here and gave you a really good move the other way. I have lots of images of trades like this. So yeah, that's all I got for that. So IWM, sort of the same thing. I mean, we had this really good range on the daily, tons of volume. Gaps up with the SPY and Qs the other day, strong day. But then IWM was a bit different. It did make a big wick and came down about 50%, which told me that the IWM was, a bit weaker than the other markets, and it makes sense because we did have this huge range that did break out, and then it failed and came back in, which gives you that opposite momentum down. And then you combine that with these other 2 big days, which created a nice range resistance here of 227, 226.50, 227, plus it was a gap. So I was already very bearish at this level. And, that day that it gapped up and went, and we had a nice sell here. Yesterday had a little wick again. So to me, this was sort of like the Qs 400 level. I felt like I had a really good range resistance zone area to play with. You just had to sort of wait and see what it gave you. And I feel like it gave a decent indicator. So yeah, it gave this wick. So I think this is honestly pretty comparable to a climactic volume. It was just sort of on a bigger scale. Obviously, it was huge. It was like $1 of a wick. I didn't see it live, but I feel like you see it hit a daily level. This was sort of the top of the zone up here, and it had already been sort of fighting to stay up here. So I feel like this wick was a really good indication that, hey, that was it. That was probably the last time it was going to come up here. And if you would have gone short, you could have gone a nice partial down at low of day. But then here it did a double top, which is like I was saying it could do on the Qs or whatever. You never know. And so it came up one more time, basically at high of day, not counting the wick. And then you could have just held or added in or whatever, break a VWAP. Okay, let's try this again. Gets the low of day, and then it breaks. And so now it's right here is when you really say, okay, it is a short, right? You had the wick, you have the higher time frame zone. You have a pretty decent range here. This is pretty small compared to its ATR. And then it tries 3 times to go lower. Third time breaks it with some volume here. And then you get a nice retest. You could get in anywhere in this little zone here. And then you have a nice range here. And then it breaks there. Let's see what it does the rest of the day. So yeah, it holds up. It keeps pulling back to this area, but it never gets above it. It does give you a failed breakdown, and this is why you just have to take your partials and stuff, because sometimes it's tricky. If your average isn't way up here and you're sort of playing, you're scalping and stuff. Say you got in here, partial sum comes back, maybe stops you out, or maybe you get back in, etc. Partial. Maybe you add thinking it's going to continue now. It's the third time it hits here. Then it comes back in. You want to make sure that you take some profit or get out of your add or whatever. And then when it's coming up, know that, hey, this is substantial. And sure enough, it turns around again. And you can hold on, maybe wait for even more confirmation. It breaks here, but then comes back inside a little bit. So there's lots of, it just felt like it was really hard for these stocks to make new lows and keep going. Their pullbacks were kind of back inside the little mini ranges and then continued. That's sort of what Tesla was doing too. So you just have to pay yourself and be patient and manage your trade. I also was trying to look at, I'm in a lot of options trades, and I'm, interested in swinging as well. I mean, maybe even buying a call or a put, but I mostly have been selling options. But I really like RBLX, but I just don't know. It's tricky because it's like yesterday we loved it and we would have wanted it, especially somewhere down here. We really felt like this was like a zone support area. So we would have loved to have gotten in. And then today, man, it's just tricky. It's just funny how our mind thinks. I'm like, it was so hard to get in today because I was just thinking, man, this is so bearish looking. This thing is turning around. It's selling off. But really, it came right back down to such a good area to where we thought it was such a good buy. I was noticing how the markets were selling off and how I should be looking for entry opportunities for these stronger stocks today. Sure, we want to buy on the breakouts, but then we also want to buy on the pullbacks. I mean, those are two different strategies. So I kept watching it. I really liked it in here, this 118 to 116 area based on yesterday's price action, but I just couldn't pull the trigger. And I also wasn't sure, well, where am I going to get out? Am I going to get out here? Or am I going to let it get a little lower down here? I just really wasn't sure. And I guess I could use that. Whoops, I could use this too. So maybe more of like this 108. 108 to 110 would sort of be like my out. Or I could just do here. I wasn't sure. But no matter what, if this ends up holding this area here and we buy today, I feel like this could be a smart entry. The only thing is this is a little scary. So I just, that's about it for that. All right. Thanks, guys.